The ocean is full of creatures that captivate, terrify, and inspire awe. From massive whales to tiny bioluminescent plankton, the sea holds an endless array of life forms. But among them, there is one that seems almost otherworldly delicate, transparent, and pulsing with an ethereal glow. This is the moon jellyfish, a creature that has no brain, no heart, and no blood, yet thrives across the world's oceans. Despite its ghostly appearance, the moon jellyfish is one of the most successful species on Earth, having existed for over 500 million years, making it older than the dinosaurs. But how does a creature with no central nervous system navigate the ocean? How does it eat, reproduce, and survive in a constantly changing world? And why is it becoming more dominant than ever before? This is the full story of the moon jellyfish, a deep dive into its biology, behavior, evolutionary history, and its surprising impact on the world's ecosystems. Prepare to enter a world where life operates in slow motion, where creatures drift between currents, and where survival depends not on strength, but on simplicity. Let's begin. The moon jellyfish, scientifically known as Aurelia aurita, is one of the most recognizable and widespread species of jellyfish on the planet. Unlike many of its more dangerous relatives, the moon jelly is known for its gentle, almost ghostly appearance and its relatively harmless sting. Found in coastal waters, bays, and estuaries across the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, moon jellies thrive in a variety of environments. They are particularly abundant in temperate and tropical waters, but they are also capable of surviving in colder northern seas, making them one of the most adaptable jellyfish species in the world. One of the most striking features of the moon jelly is its bell, the umbrella-like structure that makes up the majority of its body. This translucent, saucer-shaped bell can grow up to 12 inches, 30 centimeters in diameter, though some individuals in ideal conditions can exceed this size. The bell is often nearly colorless, but it can take on a soft bluish, pinkish, or purplish tint, depending on the jellyfish's diet and the lighting conditions in its habitat. At the center of the bell, 4 horseshoe-shaped structures are clearly visible. These are the gonads, or reproductive organs, which are often a milky white, pink, or violet color. These structures not only serve as a defining characteristic of the species, but also make the moon jelly instantly recognizable to marine biologists and ocean enthusiasts alike. Like all jellyfish, the moon jelly's body is made up of an astonishing 95% water. This means that if you were to remove it from the ocean, it would collapse into a barely recognizable gelatinous heap. This extreme water content allows it to be lightweight and energy efficient, floating effortlessly in the ocean's currents. Unlike fish or marine mammals, the moon jelly doesn't have bones, a heart, a brain, or even blood. Instead, it relies on a simple yet highly effective biological system that has been fine-tuned over millions of years. One of the most mesmerizing aspects of moon jellies is the way they move. Unlike creatures that actively swim, chase prey, or migrate long distances, the moon jelly relies primarily on passive drifting. It is carried by ocean currents, tides, and waves, moving wherever the water takes it. However, it isn't completely at the mercy of the ocean. The moon jelly can control its movement to some extent by pulsing its bell in a slow, rhythmic motion. This pulsing contracts the bell, forcing water out and propelling the jellyfish forward in a gentle, pulsating glide. While this movement is relatively weak and inefficient for long-distance travel, it helps the moon jelly orient itself in the water, rise or descend slightly, and remain in areas with high concentrations of food. The name moon jellyfish, comes from its soft, round, and glowing appearance, which many people compare to the full moon. When viewed underwater, especially at night, moon jellies appear to glow with an ethereal, otherworldly luminescence. This is due in part to the way their transparent bodies reflect and scatter light, as well as bioluminescent plankton that may be present in the water around them. However, moon jellies themselves are not bioluminescent. Unlike some of their deep-sea relatives, they do not produce their own light. Instead, their transparent, jelly-like structure catches ambient light in a way that gives them their famous soft glow. One of the most remarkable aspects of the moon jellyfish is its ability to survive in a wide range of oceanic conditions. Unlike many marine species that require specific water temperatures, salinity levels, and oxygen concentrations, moon jellies are highly adaptable. They can tolerate low oxygen environments, meaning they can survive in areas where many fish and marine mammals would struggle. They can adjust to changes in salinity, allowing them to thrive in both saltwater and brackish estuaries. They are resilient to pollution, making them one of the few species that actually benefit from human-induced changes in marine ecosystems. Because of these adaptations, moon jellies have been able to expand their range in recent years, particularly in areas where overfishing has removed their natural predators. Another fascinating trait of the moon jelly is its ability to clone itself under certain conditions. If a moon jelly is injured or cut into pieces, it has the ability to regenerate lost body parts, a feature that few animals possess. Even more astonishing, if a moon jelly's body is damaged beyond repair, it can revert to an earlier stage of its life cycle and start its development process all over again. This ability gives the moon jellyfish a remarkable survival advantage, one of the many reasons why it has managed to persist for over 500 million years. At first glance, the idea of a creature living without a brain, heart, or blood seems almost impossible. After all, in most animals, the brain serves as the command center, controlling movement, processing sensory information, and coordinating complex behaviors. But the moon jellyfish has perfected an entirely different way of survival, one that relies not on centralized control, but on a distributed, decentralized nervous system. Instead of a brain, the moon jellyfish has what's known as a nerve net, a primitive but effective system of neurons spread throughout its body. This network functions almost like an autopilot system, allowing the jellyfish to respond to stimuli automatically rather than through conscious thought. The nerve net is spread out just beneath the surface of the jellyfish's bell, where it coordinates muscle contractions that allow the jellyfish to move. Unlike higher animals, where nerves send signals to and from a central brain, the moon jelly's neurons operate more like a series of independent circuits, each capable of triggering specific actions. This means that even if one part of the jellyfish's body is damaged, the rest of the organism can continue functioning without issue. If a moon jellyfish were cut in half, each half could still move and react to its environment, at least for some time, because no single area is responsible for controlling everything. The moon jelly doesn't actively swim like a fish or dolphin. Instead, it moves using a method called pulsation, where it contracts and relaxes its bell in a slow, rhythmic motion. This movement is not controlled by a brain, but by clusters of neurons that fire automatically in response to external stimuli. To conserve energy, the moon jelly's movements are incredibly efficient. Studies have shown that it is one of the most energy-efficient swimmers in the entire animal kingdom, using less energy per unit of movement than almost any other marine creature. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. If you remove all external stimulation, a moon jellyfish will still continue pulsing. Its nerve net is hardwired to keep the body moving, regardless of what's happening around it. Despite not having a brain or centralized sensory processing, moon jellies are far from unaware of their surroundings. Instead of traditional eyes, ears, or a nose, they rely on a combination of primitive sensory organs to navigate their environment. Moon jellyfish don't see the world in sharp detail, but they do possess Aurelia small, light-sensitive organs that allow them to detect changes in brightness. This helps them determine where to swim, avoiding overly bright or dangerous areas and staying in nutrient-rich waters where food is abundant. Along the edge of its bell, the moon jellyfish has 8 specialized structures called repalia. Each repalium contains gravity-sensing statocysts, which help the jellyfish detect its orientation in the water, preventing it from floating upside down. Nerve clusters, which regulate the jellyfish's pulsing movement. The repalia work like tiny biological sensors, helping the jellyfish adjust its swimming pattern based on environmental conditions. The moon jelly can detect touch and vibrations through specialized cells in its body. This allows it to react if something bumps into it or if it drifts into an area with too many obstacles. It can also sense chemical changes in the water, helping it locate food sources, avoid predators, or find a suitable place to reproduce. Even without a brain, moon jellies have developed basic survival responses to threats. When faced with a predator or strong currents, they can increase their pulsing speed, helping them escape dangerous areas, change their swimming direction by adjusting the way their nerve net fires signals, become temporarily inactive in poor conditions, saving energy until circumstances improve. In essence, a moon jelly doesn't need conscious thought to respond to danger. Instead, its nerve net and sensory systems work together in a way that is automatic, efficient, and incredibly ancient. At first, it might seem like not having a brain is a disadvantage. But in reality, the moon jellyfish's simple design has allowed it to thrive for over 500 million years, outlasting countless other species. It requires very little energy to survive, since it doesn't waste resources on complex thinking. It can survive in extreme environments, including oxygen-poor waters where most fish and marine animals would die. It is highly adaptable, able to drift across entire oceans without needing to actively search for food or shelter. In a way, the moon jellyfish represents an entirely different path in the evolution of life one, where simplicity, efficiency, and adaptability matter more than intelligence or strength. At first glance, the moon jellyfish doesn't seem like much of a predator. It lacks a mouth in the traditional sense, it has no teeth, and it doesn't actively chase its prey. Yet, despite these apparent limitations, it is a highly efficient feeder, perfectly adapted to filter feeding in the ocean's vast open waters. Unlike sharks, which actively hunt, or fish, which dart around searching for food, moon jellyfish take a completely different approach. They let the ocean bring the food to them. As they drift through the water, pulsing their umbrella-shaped bell, they create subtle water currents that draw microscopic plankton, small fish larvae, and other tiny organisms into their tentacles. These tentacles, which hang delicately from the edges of their bell, are lined with thousands of microscopic stinging cells called cnidocytes. Each cnidocyte contains a specialized structure known as a nematocyst, which is essentially a tiny coiled harpoon loaded with venom. However, unlike the deadly stingers of box jellyfish or sea wasps, the moon jelly's nematocysts are relatively weak, designed more for gripping prey than for paralyzing or killing it. As unsuspecting plankton or tiny fish brush against the tentacles, the nematocysts fire, releasing a sticky mucus-like substance that ensnares the prey. Once captured, the food is slowly moved along the tentacles toward the jellyfish's 4 long, frilly oral arms, which extend from the center of the bell. The oral arms of a moon jelly are some of its most distinctive features. Long, flowing, and lined with additional mucus-producing cells, and they act as a biological conveyor belt, carefully transporting food toward the central stomach. As the food moves along these arms, it becomes further trapped in sticky mucus and is gradually funneled toward a tiny opening in the center of the jellyfish's underside. This opening serves as both the mouth and anus of the jellyfish, an efficient but unusual anatomical feature shared by all cnidarians. Once food reaches this opening, it is drawn into the stomach, where digestion begins. Unlike complex animals with intestines, livers, and digestive enzymes specialized for breaking down food, the moon jellyfish has a rudimentary stomach divided into 4 gastric pouches. Inside these pouches, enzymes begin breaking down the prey, dissolving plankton and small organisms into nutrients that can be absorbed directly by the jellyfish's tissues. Since moon jellies lack a circulatory system, they don't need blood vessels to distribute nutrients. Instead, they rely on a process called diffusion, a passive method where nutrients and oxygen simply spread throughout the jellyfish's gelatinous body. Here's where things get even stranger. Since the jellyfish only has one digestive opening, it excretes waste the same way it eats through its mouth. Once digestion is complete, any indigestible material, such as the hard shells of tiny crustaceans, is expelled back into the water, drifting away with the current. While this may seem inefficient or even a little gross by human standards, it works perfectly for the moon jelly. It requires very little energy, and its simple structure allows it to process food efficiently without the need for complex organs. Moon jellyfish primarily feed on zooplankton, tiny drifting animals, including copepods, krill, and fish larvae. Phytoplankton. Although primarily carnivorous, moon jellies can also consume single-celled algae, small fish eggs, and larvae. They occasionally trap and consume the early-stage offspring of larger fish species. Tiny crustaceans. This includes amphipods and small shrimp, which can become ensnared in their tentacles. Despite their gentle and graceful appearance, moon jellies are constantly feeding, processing large volumes of water, and consuming whatever edible particles they encounter. One of the most fascinating survival abilities of moon jellyfish is their ability to shrink when food is scarce. Unlike many animals that simply starve and die without food, moon jellies reduce their body size by reabsorbing their own tissues to conserve energy. This remarkable adaptation allows them to survive in areas where food is scarce, waiting until conditions improve. Once food becomes available again, they regrow their lost mass, effectively bouncing back from periods of starvation. Interestingly, when moon jellies are placed in aquariums with an overabundance of food, they can experience uncontrolled growth, resulting in abnormally large bell sizes. This phenomenon has been observed in controlled environments, where jellyfish fed excessive amounts of plankton have grown far larger than their wild counterparts. This suggests that in natural settings, moon jellies self-regulate their size based on food availability, making them highly adaptable to changing environmental conditions. The way the moon jellyfish eats reflects its evolutionary brilliance. It doesn't chase, it doesn't fight, it simply drifts, passively capturing food without expending unnecessary energy. This seemingly simple, effortless feeding strategy has helped moon jellyfish survive for over 500 million years, outlasting countless species and adapting to practically every oceanic environment. They may not be the most aggressive predators, nor do they have the most advanced hunting techniques. But in the endless cycle of ocean life, the moon jelly proves that sometimes simplicity is the ultimate survival strategy. In recent decades, scientists and marine biologists have noticed a dramatic increase in jellyfish populations around the world, particularly species like the moon jellyfish. Once seen as passive drifters in the ocean, moon jellies are now at the center of an ecological shift that is redefining marine environments. But how did this happen? Why are moon jellies thriving while other species struggle? The answer lies in human activity and its unintended consequences on the ocean. A combination of climate change, overfishing, pollution, and habitat modification has created the perfect conditions for moon jellyfish to dominate marine ecosystems. Moon jellyfish are remarkably adaptable to different temperatures, but what makes them particularly resilient is their ability to thrive in warmer waters. As global temperatures rise, ocean currents are shifting, warming many coastal regions where moon jellies already exist. Unlike many fish and invertebrates that struggle with rising sea temperatures, moon jellyfish are incredibly tolerant of warmer, lower oxygen environments. In fact, in some areas, increasing water temperatures are triggering larger and more frequent jellyfish blooms. With fewer predators and competitors, moon jellies are reproducing at unprecedented rates. Their polyps' tiny larval stages that cling to underwater surfaces can remain dormant for years and then suddenly burst into mass reproduction when conditions are right. This ability makes them perfectly suited to a rapidly changing climate. Jellyfish may seem like fragile, harmless creatures, but in reality, they play a crucial role in marine food webs. In a balanced ecosystem, natural predators such as sea turtles, large fish like tuna and sunfish, and some species of seabirds help keep jellyfish populations in check. However, decades of industrial overfishing have decimated many of these predator populations. With fewer sea turtles and large fish, jellyfish numbers have exploded. Even more troubling, overfishing has removed many species that compete with jellyfish for food. For example, sardines, anchovies, and other small fish typically feed on zooplankton, which is also the primary food source for moon jellies. With fish populations dwindling, moon jellies face less competition and can outcompete other species for food, further disrupting marine food chains. Another key factor driving jellyfish population growth is pollution, particularly the kind that creates hypoxic, low oxygen zones, often referred to as dead zones. Dead zones occur when excessive amounts of fertilizers, sewage, and industrial waste enter the ocean, causing massive algae blooms. When these algae die and decompose, they consume huge amounts of oxygen, leaving little for marine life. Most fish and invertebrates struggle to survive in these conditions. However, moon jellyfish are uniquely suited for life in low oxygen environments. Their simple anatomy and reliance on passive diffusion for oxygen intake allow them to thrive where other animals cannot. As dead zones expand due to pollution and climate change, moon jellyfish are increasingly becoming the dominant species in affected areas. In some places, these blooms are so massive that they clog fishing nets, disrupt power plants, and even cause problems for tourism and industry. The way we build our cities, ports, and coastal infrastructure has accidentally benefited jellyfish populations. Remember the polyp stage of the moon jellyfish life cycle? These tiny anemone-like organisms need hard surfaces to attach to before they eventually develop into adult medusae. Historically, this meant rocks, coral reefs, or the ocean floors. But today, human activity has created countless artificial surfaces that serve as ideal polyp nurseries. Docks and piers, oil rigs and ship hulls, seawalls and artificial reefs, plastic waste floating in the ocean. Because of this, moon jellies have more places than ever to settle and reproduce, leading to larger populations year after year. As moon jelly populations explode, their growing presence is causing a ripple effect across marine ecosystems. While jellyfish have always been part of the ocean, their unchecked growth presents serious problems for humans and marine life alike. Moon jellies primarily feed on zooplankton, the same microscopic organisms that many fish species rely on. When jellyfish populations grow out of control, they can consume vast amounts of zooplankton, starving out fish larvae, small crustaceans, and other marine creatures. This can lead to declines in fish populations, which in turn affects larger predators, creating a chain reaction that impacts entire marine ecosystems. In places like Japan, the US, and Europe, massive jellyfish blooms have been known to clog the intake pipes of power plants, disrupting energy production. In some cases, entire power plants have been forced to shut down due to overwhelming jellyfish swarms. For fisheries, moon jelly blooms are a major nuisance. They clog fishing nets, damage equipment, and reduce the populations of commercially valuable fish by outcompeting them for food. While moon jellies are not dangerous to humans, their large numbers can still impact tourism. Swarms of jellyfish washing up on beaches can deter swimmers and tourists, leading to economic losses in coastal regions that rely on tourism. In some areas, beachgoers have reported seeing entire shorelines covered in moon jellies, creating an eerie, gelatinous landscape that signals a changing ocean. The rise of moon jellyfish presents an urgent question for marine biologists and environmentalists. Are we witnessing a temporary ecological shift, or are jellyfish becoming the dominant species of the future? Some scientists warn that if overfishing and pollution continue, we could be heading toward a jellyfish ocean, a world where jellyfish replace fish as the dominant marine life. Others argue that natural cycles will eventually balance out jellyfish populations, especially if efforts to restore fish stocks, reduce pollution, and combat climate change are successful. Regardless, one thing is clear. Moon jellyfish are not just passive drifters anymore. They are thriving, adapting, and taking over in ways we never anticipated. The question is, how will the rest of the ocean respond? The moon jellyfish is a living paradox, a creature that lacks a brain yet responds to its environment, that has no heart yet flourishes in vast numbers, that appears delicate yet is one of the most resilient organisms on Earth. For over 500 million years, it has drifted through Earth's oceans, witnessing the rise and fall of countless species. And now, as the world changes once again, the moon jelly continues to thrive. Perhaps its true secret to survival isn't strength or intelligence, but simplicity, a lesson we might all learn from.